one in the middle with a big old grin on her face, because she knows that if it had not been for the grace of God, I would have been swallowed up like everybody else.
Hallelujah.
It is with the backdrop of God's restorative power that I want to share with you today about one family's encounter with the great restorer. Here we find Jesus in the midst of his earthly ministry, and he walks into a city called Nain, and as he walks in with his posse or his crew, he encounters a funeral procession. In this one moment, what we are seeing is death colliding with life. What we are seeing is joy colliding with grief. Peace colliding with anxiety. Jesus sees something that catches his attention. Whenever you find Jesus stop in the gospel, whenever you find that he stops in his ministry, it is worthy for us to stop and examine what's going on. What is it that gets God's attention? What is it that causes God in the flesh to stop what he's doing? You know, when we study Jesus, he was always on a mission. He walked with purpose. So not just anything catches his attention. But as he goes into the city, he sees something that stops him.
Praise God.
Praise the Lord.
I want to place at your feet this afternoon 3 reflections about this encounter. I want to place at your feet 3 reflections, and I hope 1 or 2 of you picks it up and eats it. The first thing I want us to reflect upon is the young man. Jesus encounters a young man. But it wasn't an ordinary young man. It wasn't a young man going off to high school to finish his 12th grade so he can graduate. It wasn't a young man going off to college in order to forge a life for himself. No, 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 no. It wasn't even a young man going off to get married and to build a family for himself. No, 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 no. It was a dead young man. Somehow, this young man died before his time. He died before he could ever fulfill his potential. He died before he could ever fulfill his dreams. He died before he could ever be a husband, be a father. He died before he could ever live. Somehow, some way, his life was cut short. Solomon asked a question to his generation, and it is the same question that God is causing me to ask young people all across Southern California. And Ecclesiastes chapter 7, Solomon by the Spirit of God says, why die before your time?
Amen. Amen.
Why die before you can fulfill your dreams? Why die before you can be a husband? Why die before you can be a mother? Why die before you can be an honorable wife? Why die before your time?
Praise God.
I believe that this young man is representative of our young generation throwing away their lives before they ever begin to live. One statistic says that the #1 cause of murder between 15 and 24 years old is murder. The leading cause of death for teenagers, murder.
Wow.
The #1 leading cause for Hispanics and blacks is suicide. We are living in a generation where we're raising up young people that no longer want to dream, no longer want to wake up another day. They'd rather shoot themselves than face another day. I was serving my life sentence, meditating on this passage of scriptures for multiple years, and the Lord just placed it upon my heart that we are living in a generation right outside of our doors where we're carrying off thousands upon thousands of young people out of the city. We're carrying them out by the dozens outside of the city. Some are being carried off to the graveyard. My oldest brother, as you saw in the documentary, at the age of 15 years old, I still remember the last time he walked out of the house. I was 7 years old, and I remember my mom pleading to him, don't go out, don't go out. He was 15 years old, but for some reason, he could not resist the cry of the streets. He could not resist the pull of the streets. And so he said, no, I got to go out. I got to go out. In less than 3 hours, his own homeboy, not his enemy, but his homeboy shot him in the head. And he slumped over and died. And we carried him out of the city. One of thousands carried out of the city. Every day out of Long Beach, carried out. Some that God has showed more mercy to, they're not getting carried out to the funeral, but they're getting carried out in shackles. They're getting carried out in that gray bus that you see on the freeway that says Los Angeles County. I know how it feels to be carried out of the city. I know how it feels to be in shackles. Don't let my looks fool you today. The only reason why I look like this is by the grace of God. It's by the grace of God. And God found me in the lost and found of society when I had nothing but a broken heart.
Thank you, Jesus.
I wasn't an evil kid. I didn't wake up wanting to kill everybody every day. That wasn't me. I just had a bad attitude. I would not listen to wisdom when it came knocking on my door. I would not listen to my parents or school teachers, and it developed in me a bad attitude. It was the gang life that eventually ripped my family apart, and after my brother died, about 9 years later, I heard a knock at the door of my heart, and I got up, and guess what it was? It was the same cry of the streets. The same pool that pulled my brother out came knocking on my door, and I made a mistake that day. You know what I did? I got up and I opened up the door of my heart to the streets, and it came in and it sucked me out of the protection of my home. It sucked me out of the protection of my family, and it drug me into the streets until I spiritually, until I ruined my whole life. I don't represent the older gang member that listened to oldies and carried bumper jacks. I represent the younger generation that listened to gangster rap and carried AK-47s, and it didn't matter who you were with. If you got caught slipping, everybody was going to pay the price. That was the generation that shaped my mentality. I was around in Long Beach in the late 80s and the early 90s when you couldn't walk down the street. I became to go in and out of jail. I went to Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall, a Central Juvenile Hall. At the age of 14 years old, the devil tried to kill me. Less than 10 feet away, some rival gang members opened fire on me. And by the grace of God, out of multiple bullets, only one hit me in my left arm. I remember my brother in his lowrider car drove me to the hospital, and I can still hear the nurse crying out, "You're so young, you're so young." They put me in a holding room. They began to cut off all my clothes. And I remember that less than 30 minutes later, I heard a familiar voice crying in the hallway. As that voice got closer, I said to myself, oh my God, that's my mom. I'm in trouble now. I closed my eyes and I put my head down and acted like I was asleep. Bullet went through my arm. My arm was broken through and through, and it was swollen up. I couldn't even lift up my thumb. I couldn't even lift up my hand because it was paralyzed. And my mom came in with tears in her eyes, just grateful that I was alive.